Hello everybody and welcome back to Lost Planeswalker. You are here with me, Jesse, the Lost Planeswalker, and today I want to talk about all of the really cool new mechanics of Duskmourn House of Horror. We just saw the announcement at PAX talking about all of the different card types, because we have a new card type, and all of the new mechanics from this set that I think are very, very cool, and I really want to cover them because I think it's going to be helpful in the long run here, especially as people start playing these decks. It's going to be really important. So we're going to start out by talking about the rooms, diving right into it. And the one room we was showed off was the Doll Keeper Shop in the Porcelain Gallery. So rooms are a type of enchantment that have two sides to them, and as you cast them, you may pay for either half of the card. When you do, the unlocked half, or the half you cast, comes into play, and the other half is kind of blacked out. Then, as a sorcery, you may pay for the other half of the locked door to unlock it, meaning that you have both sides open if you pay the additional cost for the room that you didn't pay for when you cast it initially. So looking at this Doll Maker Shop, for 1 and a white, whenever one or more non-toy creatures you control attack a player, create a 1/1 white toy artifact creature token. And Porcelain Gallery, 4 white creatures you control have base power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control. So looking this over, you can see that you're able to make tokens whenever you attack a player, and then Porcelain Gallery you can cast later on to buff up your entire team. Or maybe you just want to buff up your entire team, or you just want the first half of this card. It's versatile. It's always nice having these dual-sided cards that let you do one thing or two. This lets you do both of them, and you don't have to do it at the same time like some other cards with two different cards printed on them. So I think these rooms are going to be very, very neat. This is obviously a mythic card. I'm very interested to see if we get, 20 of these. Maybe we get some at rare and uncommon as well, but time will tell. Now, let's talk about Manifest Dread, because this is a new ability on an old mechanic. So Manifest is an ability where a activated ability or spell tells you to manifest a card, meaning you manifest the top card of your library onto the battlefield, and then later on you can flip it over by casting it, if it's a creature, for its mana cost. Now, Manifest Dread is a very interesting take on this mechanic, focusing around the other set mechanics of Duskmourn, meaning that you're going to look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of those onto the battlefield and the other into your graveyard. There is a lot of cards that care about your graveyard in this set, so it makes sense where this new manifest ability revolves around that. Similarly, we're going to get some other cards that help you flip over those manifested cards for cheaper or even for free based on their abilities. So Manifest is going to be a big new part of this set, and it might be worthwhile to check out some old Manifest cards if you're building a deck to see how that runs. Now, moving on to Survival, which is an interesting new ability. Survival works by making sure that the card that it's triggering is tapped during the beginning of your second main phase. So whether you attacked with that, it taps for some ability, or you have other ways to tap those creatures, as long as they're tapped during the beginning of your second main phase, you'll get some additional ability. Looking at Veteran Survivor here, single white creature human survivor with survival at the beginning of your second main phase. If Veteran Survivor is tapped, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. Exiling cards from graveyards is very powerful, and as long as there are 3 or more cards exiled with Veteran Survivor, it gets +3/+3 and has hexproof. What a cool way to remove cards and get a really big 1-drop, because if this gets removed or killed and you cast another one, well, this technically, because it's also a Veteran Survivor, has exiled 3 cards. You get to cast a 1 mana 5/4 in white, which is insane. So this is a very cool ability, and I can't wait to say more of it. But now let's look at Eerie. Eerie cares about enchantments, which are going to be a huge part of Duskmourn. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, which we talked about earlier, target player mills 2 cards. So we can see that rooms are going to be somewhat of an important mechanic revolving around Eerie, or whenever we just cast an enchantment spell, which is great because we're seeing these in some different colors that don't typically revolve super heavily around ETBing of enchantments, like this blue crab, Scrabbling Skull Crab, single blue, creature scrab skeleton with Eerie. Whenever an enchantment you control enters, and whenever you fully unlock a room, target player mills 2 cards. Now, we'll see lots of variations of maybe you draw a card, or maybe you do something else. As long as you have an enchantment enter, or when you fully unlock a room, we're going to get some ability after that. So I'm very excited to see that. And of course, if you watch my other videos, we have Impending. This is a very cool new ability, but if you haven't, let's talk about it. Impending is a very cool ability where you have a number. So in this case, it might be impending 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the impending value ends up being, but you cast it for an alternate cost, and that impending number indicates the number of time counters you put on it. So for example, Overlord of the Hauntwoods is 3 green enchantment creature avatar horror, or impending for 4 1 green. And whenever this enters or attacks, create a tapped colorless land token named Everywhere that is every basic land type. So for 3 mana, this enters the battlefield and you create that land, but you have to wait an additional 4 turns before those time counters fall off, and then you can start attacking with it as a creature. It'll still be on the battlefield, I believe, and it'll still activate as normal. You know, I like to think about these similarly to the Theros gods. They enter as enchantments, they have some ability on them that may or may not trigger, and then as the time in the game progresses, you reach that condition and you can finally play them. And the last ability that isn't new, but it's returning, is Delirium. Delirium is an ability that cares about the number of different types of card types you have in your graveyard. And typically we have cards that care about when you meet that threshold, you get some ability. We can see from the other new keywords that putting things into your graveyard is going to be an important part of this set, as is the return of enchantment creatures. This is going to be a very fun set to draft with the cards with lots of different subtypes on them to help hit that delirium a little quicker. But with that, I would just like to say thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned a thing or two. Maybe there's a new ability that you're like, man, I know exactly how I'm going to use this. I know exactly where this is going. This is going to work perfect in this, and this deck. You know, tell me about it. Let me know in the comments down below. Are there any abilities you think are really strong, or are there any you're just like, you know what? Who cares about Eerie? You know, that's really not going to matter that much. You know, I'd love to hear about it in the comments down below. In addition, if you would please leave a like, share this video with a friend, and subscribe, that would mean the world to me. So thank you. So today's Scryfall card of the day is Armored Griffin. When an order for Griffin boarding comes in, blacksmiths prepare their forges for months of exacting work. They know Griffins always detect imperfections and never haggle. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.